Hi, and very welcome to the 13th episode of Organise Events 101. My name is Sam, and today we are continuing our series about leadership. And in this episode, we will talk about my colleague David's third and final principle of leadership: always be prepared to invade Canada. The US military has a plan ready for the scenario if they would deploy troops and invade Canada. And this may sound rather funny. I mean, how likely is it that war would break out between these two nations? And yeah, you are probably right. But better safe than sorry. And why is that? The answer is clear. It is always important to have a plan. When you are at your event, I often say that it's almost like being at war. Things go at a fast pace. It is important to reach results quickly, and you have to be prepared to face all kinds of problems. And if you have a plan for some likely scenarios that could happen, and also some unlikely scenarios that would be really bad if they happened, you will be much more flexible to solve problems when they arise. When you think about which scenarios you should have a plan for, there are two key aspects which you have to consider. First, how likely is it that the scenario happens? Have a plan ready for every common scenario that you think will happen at your event. For example, what should you do if there happens to be a power outage? Do you know where the fuse box is? And or who should you call?
Something strange in the neighborhood. Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters!
Second, how grave are the consequences for not having a plan for the scenario? Like if the building which hosts your event catches on fire, scenarios which are not likely at all to happen, but have some really serious consequences if you do. You should have a plan for them as well. A lot of time during an event, things will not go as you have planned them, and you have to be prepared to adjust your plan. The better you are prepared with different scenarios and fallback plans, the easier you will have to improvise and solve problems during the event. And you will probably not be able to create a scenario for every possible thing that could happen, but better to have a bad plan than no plan at all. Because if you don't have a plan at all, you will probably just stand there with no clue whatsoever and lose valuable time. But if you have a plan which will deliver the desired results, but maybe it's not the best or most efficient way to solve the problem, you can either way get started immediately. Take for example, if you are faced with the problem that you have to transport a lot of tables across the venue of your event, and your plan is to carry them by hand. Maybe it would have been better to use a truck and move them by pallet, but by having a plan, you can start solving the problem immediately, and that is fine. Better to start working with a bad plan and follow through than to do nothing. And when you hear me talk in this podcast about planning, you maybe imagine that I have lots of documents with complicated processes for different scenarios, but that is not what I mean. The plan for different scenarios can be as easy as call the police, or buy a new microwave oven, or just surrender to the consequences. But even though the plan is short, then you will have at least thought about it beforehand. And that is always better than to be surprised at the event. And last but not least, just as important as creating a plan is sharing it with your co-workers and your subordinates. Make sure that everyone gets a grip of your plan and understands it. If you succeed with this, you will win a lot, compared to if you have to brief them at the event and things are really in a hurry. Have a stable relationship and common understanding between you and your subordinates. And your co-workers and subordinates have to have working relationships and plans for cooperation between themselves as well. In NärCon, we have 2 big get-together weekends before the festival. And why we only have 2 is because our organizers live all over Sweden. Partly, we have these weekends to educate them about our values, our planning, our working methods, etc. But the main goal of these weekends is not education, but is the possibility for all organizers to meet each other and work out their common planning. And one thing that I tell all of them is how important it is for their volunteers also to get together and talk in some way before the event. For example, in Discord, Skype, etc. So, to summarize today's episode, planning is maybe the most important thing for you when you are organizing an event, and mostly what it's all about. Create plans for all likely scenarios, but also for some more unlikely scenarios which have really grave consequences if they would happen. And get everybody on board with the plan, so that the communication at the event when things are in a hurry go much more smoothly. For me, a lot of planning comes from experience. If you have encountered a problem before, then when it happens next time, you are a lot more prepared. And for me, who has organized events for over 15 years now, I have a lot of non-written planning, which just is basic experiences from all kinds of problems that I have faced over the years, and I have some kind of understanding of if that problem were to arise, how should I face it and what should I do. But even if I have the experience from a lot of years of organizing events, I have to share these plans with my subordinates, and the best way to do that is before the event, when you have much more time at your disposal. Thank you for listening. Be sure to like, subscribe, and of course tune in next time for our final episode in this series about leadership. If you want to reach me, my email address is, as usual, podcast@narcon.se. This is Organise Events 101 by NärCon, and my name is Sam.